NBC New York, NBC Sports. I don't want to see the actual game. I want to see the chaos going on outside the stadium. Oh, too many NBCs. Anybody? Hey, Amy. Hey, Tracy. Hi, all of you. Anybody know? So I've got news. Maybe I go to news instead of. No, I'm in news. Am I in news? ABC, CNN, Fox News. No. Okay, it's under NBC. So which should I go to? Hello, Buffalo. Hey, Laurie. Buffalo? That's New York, isn't it? I don't know. I just want one to say NBC New York. Open in the NBC New York app. I don't know what an NBC New York app is. Well, let's try Buffalo. Buffalo's close, isn't it? Yes, Amy, exactly. That's why I'm trying to find NBC New York. Hey, Miss Hughes. I love your name, Miss Hughes. It's good to have you here. And it is midnight, so I'm going to let the TV do its own thing in the background because we're not here to watch telly, are we? No, 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 no. Hey, Laura. NBC New York. Yeah, but I'm trying to find it on the telly, on my Fire Stick. I don't know. Houston, Tulsa, Lexington, Bakersfield. I don't know where these places are, but I know they're not in New York. Say Minneapolis, Roanoke, Columbia, Rochester, Philadelphia, Knoxville. NBC. Do we know what the thingamajigs are? I've got WSAB, WMBF, WLWT, WILX, WEAU, WAF. I like that one. Washington. I know where that is. Chicago. Oh, but it doesn't say which one. Bay. I'm guessing that's San Francisco. Tampa. I know where that is. Washington, Waterloo, Boise. This is ridiculous. I just want to see Trump turn up and be booed. Is this too much to ask people? Although, to be fair, I'm guessing it's going to be... Oh, I got one. WNBC, New York. And now I'm going to put it on and it's not going to work. Am I right? Of course I'm right. Sorry. Where are you all? So let's go back a little bit. We've got... Where did I get up to, Laura? Summer, welcome. Lovely show earlier. If you didn't catch Summer Willen's show earlier, if you want something nice and not heavy and dramatic and just, a little bit introspective, but in a light, non-stressy kind of way, please go and check out Miss Summer's Substack. And we've got Laurel. We've got Laura, Laurie, and Laurel. Are you doing this just to fuck with me, girls? You are, aren't you? I know you are. And Deborah, welcome. Oh, sorry, I forgot to ask. Can you all hear me okay? That's the most important thing. Find the chaos for the Nick. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm not getting anything from this channel. Never mind. I'll have to catch it on one of the YouTube things because I suspect if there is any booing for your dear leader, it's going to be captured widely and shared. So I probably don't have to worry about missing it anyway. So it is midnight in the UK. I am still Mama and we are live on Substack. The cafe is now open. We had a bit of a delay because I couldn't get my lighting right and this was just a blur. And that's less of a blur. You can sort of see Midnight Cafe and you can see the little cat in the cup. So yeah, I had a little bit of lighting drama and then suddenly I clicked the right button and it just went ping into focus. So New York City is going to boo the house down for Trump. And I just want to be there for them, I feel that. I feel a lot of negative energy towards the dear orange leader. So everybody, if you're not trying to get into a watch party in New York right now, not near Madison Square Gardens, obviously, a few miles away because you can't get near, pull up your comfy chair or your beanbag, grab yourself a warm milky drink or an adult beverage. I'm on the Diet Cola, of course. Tamara, welcome. Come in, come in. That is a good question. Tamara, because I'm doing it at midnight because a few reasons. One, late in the evening was a good time for a lot of my US watchers who are either side of or on Eastern time. It worked well for my co-hosts, Laura, who's on one hour the other side of Eastern, and Summer, who's I believe on Eastern up in Toronto. And also because when I was looking into getting some signage going, I could get the individual letters for whatever I wanted for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds. And then, because Lil Luna was still helping me with the show back before we lost her, I saw this one for the Midnight Cafe, and I'm like, "Oh, it's perfect. We'll just call it the Midnight Cafe. We'll do it at midnight. That's a decent time over in the Americas, which is the stuff that I'm mostly talking about. So it just all fell into place, and hence the Midnight Cafe was born. Right. Who's crept in? Chris, welcome. Okay, my lovelies, let's kick off. So, welcome to any new Mamacitas tonight, and welcome back to all you lovely people who come back time and time again to support me. I really, really appreciate you all being here. So, what are we going to have a look at tonight? They told us who they were. Kevin Roberts told us he was leading a revolution. He used that word, revolution. He said it would remain bloodless if the left allowed it to be. He said it out loud, in public, on the record. Russell Vogt told us he wanted to dismantle the bureaucracy. He said the president needed to move, and I'm quoting him, quote, as fast and as aggressively as possible with a radical constitutional perspective. He said that on television. Hey, Ellen, welcome. We're just kicking off. They wrote it down, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody else. 900 pages of it. They published it. They distributed it at a conference. They put it on the goddamn internet. They trained the people they would have implement it. They built a database of loyalists ready to slip in to all the government roles on day one. And yet we were surprised. Maya Angelou, God rest her soul, told us, when someone shows you who they are, exactly, believe them the first time. They showed us repeatedly in writing with footnotes. So tonight, we're going to believe them. We're going to have a look at all the evidence that's been lying out there in plain sight, telling us exactly what Trump 2.0 was going to look like. We're going to get into the weeds, and we're going to find out exactly what the blueprint for betrayal was really all about. Let's start with the architects. And this is a cretinous cast of characters. So, I would like to talk about something that should make every one of us feel in equal measure furious and maybe a little foolish. Not because we're stupid, not because we weren't paying attention, but because they did something almost nobody does in politics. They told us exactly what they were going to do. They wrote it all down, all 900 pages of it. As I said, they published it. They presented it at a conference. They left it on the internet. And still, we were surprised. Hey, Marquette. Hey, Martin. Welcome. That ends tonight. We're going to do something about it. We're going to really have a look at what the flimin' heck is going on. Because here's the thing about being surprised. Being surprised is a choice we can only make once. After that, it isn't surprise anymore. It's denial. And we ain't got time for denial, guys. We don't do denial here on this show. You don't do denial. That's why you're here. We deal in receipts. So over the next 5 Mondays, including this one, we're going to go through Project 2025, the Heritage Foundation's Blueprint for Betrayal, once I've got my teeth in, piece by piece, receipt by receipt. And by the time we're done, you will never be able to say you don't know. But more importantly, you'll be able to explain it to anyone who still thinks this is normal politics. Your brother-in-law, your co-worker, the bloke at the school gates who says it's all a bit overblown, really. It is not overblown. It is not normal politics. It is a plan. It is written, funded, staffed, and tested. And it's being executed right now while we sit here with our warm milky drinks and our adult beverages. Hey, old hippie, welcome. So, before we kick off, just to say, yay, go Knicks fans. I'm not partisan. I don't even know what sport they're playing. I'm guessing because they're tall and it's inside, it's probably basketball, the bouncy one with the hoops and things. Not a clue. Not my thing. And I know, is it San Antonio they're playing against? San Antonio, lovely. Texas, beautiful. Lovely. New York, lovely. Got awesome. Never been to either place, but they both look great on the telly. I'm cheering for the Knicks fans because you got a job. You know what you got to do tonight. You go do it. Secondly, I have got no interest in talking about the Kirsten Welker interview with that absolute man baby because everybody else has been talking about it today. You do not need me to talk about it. You can go on literally any content creator or independent media source and they will tell you all about how basically a woman asked him to prove the lies he was saying, and he threw his toys out the pram and stamped on them, quite literally. He stamped on the microphone. I'm not kidding. Watch the clips. If you haven't seen it, I'm sure you've all seen it. I'm sure you've all seen it. Oh, yeah, no, Deborah, I think, yeah, I agree with Summer. I think, unfortunately, it has a lot to do with the Obama backlash, and that sickens me. And it's something deeper, isn't it? It's something deeper in society. We've said this so many times. Trump is a symptom of something nasty in our society, not the cause. If it wasn't Trump, it would be somebody else. So anyway, yes, Kristen Welker, well done. You go, girl. Tell him like it is. Happy to see that. On the back of the other guy, the 60 Minutes guy. Sorry, it's not my regular TV. I try and retain the names in this little space here, but there's a lot going on in there. And secondly, the enemies list with Brian Tyler Cohen and David Pakman. They are awesome, awesome, awesome. And they deal with the situation about being put on these, Scott Pelley, thank you, Laurie, being put on these enemies list far better than I can ever do justice for. And they need your support. I mean, I need your support. There's only a dozen of us here, right? But that's not the point. I'm not on a list. I'm not being targeted for my free speech. Those guys have been doing it, banging it out for the long haul. I can't think of another content creator that I've watched longer than Brian Tyler Cohen and David Pakman. And I have to thank BTC for introducing me to our lovely Glenn, because I may not have found him otherwise. So, you know, it's on the government website, Tamara, on the actual government, actual website that your actual tax dollars pay for. Yeah, yes, this is a good use of taxpayer funds. Or maybe it's not. That's not for me to decide. It's not my money. It's up to you guys. So, where was I? I got sidetracked, didn't I? Yes, but I will tell you, if I can remember it word for word, that oh, he does it so much better than me. In case you don't get a chance to go and see it, but do, because it's just beautiful. Brian Tyler Cohen sets it up beautifully. He says that he has got a statement that he's going to put out in consultation with his legal team in response to being put on this White House DOJ presidential watch list of radical leftist content creators. And his statement is as follows, if I can remember it all. Fuck you, suck my dick. I think that's exactly what it was, word for word. But he does it far more beautifully. So yeah, go check out him. And if you can pre-order his book, I'm sure it will be great. He's mentioning on his website, you'll get all the links and stuff there. Don Lemon also did a great job of talking about the tantrum today, as did the Defiance Gang. So you've got lots and lots and lots of places that you can go and have a look at what people are saying. That the I've Had It podcast, they've had a look at it as well. I am going to have a look because that is the shit that Steve Bannon told them to flood the zone with. This, and we've got to pay attention to it. We've got to nip these nasty little calluses in the bud the minute they pop up. Sorry, I'm mixing metaphors a little bit there, but yes, we do. But what I'm saying is there's lots of people on it. We need people on that. We need people doing the firefighting. We need people like Mark Elias and Democracy Docket and all those great teams fighting him in the courts. We need people like Ellie Leonard, and all those people are doing the deep dives into the Epstein files. Aaron Parnas, he's highlighting the Epstein library that's coming to DC, especially for Donnie's birthday. And I think that's lovely. So if Donnie would like to know which of the Epstein files he's in, there's at least half of them that he can now go and have a little look through and see if his name's there, because they're bringing it to his doorstep, which I think is very kind and generous. So if you want to know more about the Epstein files mobile library coming to DC, check out Aaron Parnas, because he's got all the information on that. But what we need to be doing is we need to be figuring out what's the big plan, what's going on underneath the surface, because the shit is enough to completely exhaust us. So let's just brush it off. Just brush it off a little bit. It's in safe hands. We have got plenty of very wise eyes watching this nonsense. We need to have a look at what's going on underneath, because when we do, we'll be ready. We'll be like, oh yeah, that ballroom thing, that's because of this, and that fits in this category, and that's so that we're not looking at this. They're all dead cats. We don't need to be looking at any of the dead cats. Let's look at the real stuff under the surface. Are you with me? Are you ready? Shall we crack on? You're saying, how has it taken you 17 minutes to get to the beginning of tonight? I apologize. But there's a lot going on. It's really hard when you're coming on live, talking to actual real people who've bothered to show up and appear in the chat and say hi and do all the stuff to support you. It's really, really hard to ignore and then we've got, Iran and Israel bombing the shit out of each other. But Donnie said, please don't do that. So it's all going to be fine. Okay. Everybody reassured? Good. Do you see what I mean? It's really hard. I've been writing this series for weeks now. I was still adding to it last night. And then I wake up this morning and I could have done a whole hour and a half on just what's happened over the weekend. But as I say, there are many far more experienced voices than I who are very experienced in reporting news live as it breaks, as it happens, this perspective, that perspective, getting great guests on to discuss it with. I do good research and tell stories, I think. Yeah, I think it's not bad. So I found my lane. I'm going to sit in it. And anyone who wants to come, buckle up, babies. Let's go. So, what we're going to be covering over the next 5 episodes, including this one, is as follows. This is the roadmap for our 5-week journey. Part 1, tonight, the architects. Who built this thing? Who wrote it? Who paid for it? Who's behind the Heritage Foundation? And how the man who spent an entire election campaign saying he'd never heard of it has somehow surrounded himself with almost everyone who wrote it. Strange coincidence. Thank you for your lovely comments, you lovely, gorgeous people. Tonight is about the people and the money. Yeah, follow the money. We know the rules. Part 2, burning the civil service. And we saw that within minutes. Elon and all that nonsense and Doge. The engine room of the whole operation is burning down the civil service. Schedule F, depending on which side of the Atlantic you are. The dismantling of federal workforce protections and the systematic replacement of qualified public servants with loyalists. And if you've watched any episodes of Glenn Kirshner's show, you will know that one area where they are particularly excelling at ditching career professionals and hoiking in toadies and arse lickers, it's the Department of Justice, which is a little bit worrying, but we will come to that in part 2. This is how you don't just change policy, you change the whole machine that delivers it. And that's key. This is the most important and the most boring sounding part, to be fair. And they are just counting on that boringness to keep you from looking. So we're going to have a look. That's next week. Come back. Oh, Miss Hughes, that's beautiful. You can't spell felon without Elon. Yeah, his parents, they must have known. They must have taken one look at him and thought, wrong 'un. Although, you know, that face, it's not hard to. Sorry, I'm getting personal. That's not okay. There's plenty wrong with Elon without resorting to his face. So, part 3, the capture. The Department of Justice, Glenn's baby, the FBI, the intelligence agencies, what Project 2025 says about law enforcement and what's happened to it since January 2025. This is where the rule of law lives. Or doesn't. Part 4, the culture war playbook. Where would we be without a Republican Party? No disrespect to all you nice, decent, conservative Republicans out there who genuinely mean well and just have a different political ideology to me. Apologies, but where would we be without the culture wars? If policy is failing to get you the votes, we always can go back to some good old divide and conquer. Education, reproductive rights, LGBTQ plus protections, DEI, and the Christian nationalist framework that is woven explicitly and unapologetically through every page of this document. This is the part they sell you on while all the rest is happening in the dark. Thank you for that, Admin Amy. Everybody meet Admin Amy. Admin Amy, meet everybody. She's our unofficial, unpaid, but much loved admin assistant, and I couldn't do it without her. She's just there with the answers to stuff. If you need the answer to something, ask. Amy will answer. She's pretty good. That's all right, Betsy5231. It's very nice to have you. Doing taxes is important, and it's really nice to have you here. I hope your taxes are all good and you're going to get a nice big check, because apparently you're all getting great big fat checks from Trump's policies. No, you do not have to respect Republicans, Martin. I apologize if I suggested in any way, shape or form you have to respect Republicans. I just don't want to put anyone off particularly. I am very aware that MAGA, conservatives, libertarians, they're all different tentacles of the same Republican octopus. And that's a really disgusting mental image. So, yeah, I don't get it. I don't get the I'm all right, Jack, fuck you ideology, which seems to run through the Republican establishment. But, you know, if that's your thing, then free speech. That's all I got. I'm sorry, that's all I got. I don't get it. I don't buy into your ideology, but you are entitled to it because you live in a free country. And I will defend your right to believe absolute freaking nonsense, as long as it's not harming the rest of us, till the day I die. Yeah, absolutely. No, Martin, you make a really good serious point, and I'm not good with doing serious sometimes. I get a little bit stressed and try and lift the mood. It's working in the NHS for a long time. I kind of get that gallows humor kicking in. Anybody from a non-white male middle class able-bodied perspective is being very badly treated and has been very badly treated by generations of Republican Party, especially black and brown people. And it's harmful. As Martin says, it is absolutely harmful. And it doesn't just harm the people that it's targeting, it harms all of us. It makes us all less safe. Absolutely. Women. Yeah. We'll come on to that. So, yes, we need to have a culture war playbook. Otherwise, we've got no people who don't look like white Christian men who we can target and pick on and say it's all your fault. Because if we're not finding targets for our hate, we might start looking at the people who really are hoarding all the money and taking it off everybody else. So we will have a look at that in part 4. And then part 5 is from blueprint to reality, the scorecard. What have we implemented so far? What's still coming down the pipelines and what it means for all of us, both sides of the Atlantic? Because make no mistake, this does not stay in America. You may have seen over the weekend, you've got your Vice President J.D. Vance joining in on the bollocks we mentioned about the terrible, terrible tragedy of the young lad in Southampton whose life was taken by a thug with a knife, and how certain parts of the British media and political establishment want to turn that into a black v white culture war. It's not. It's not. It was an innocent young white man, and he was killed by a thug with a knife who happened to be of a different color. It was irrelevant. It wasn't, I've said this before, it wasn't the color of the guy that killed him. It was the fucking knife being stabbed by the guy. Let's not go there. Let's not go there. But it's coming. And you've also got Pete Hegseth standing on the beaches of Normandy, for God's sake, when he should have been celebrating every fallen hero on both sides of the Atlantic. And what did he do? What did he do? He decided to pick and poke and try and tear us all apart again. And that's not worked out well for him. I'm sure you'll be able to find out more about the reception that Mr. Hegseth has received from the people that he's been coming into contact with. Horrible. Unnecessary. Imbecile. Exactly, misuse. He's a failed lot of things, if I may be so bold. Miss Hughes points out that he's a failed soldier trying to reclaim some kind of honor. I think he's failed at an awful lot. And now, yay, he's failing at being the Secretary of Defense, because he is the Secretary of Defense, because there is no such job as the Secretary of War, just so we're all clear. Okay, good. Right, so after that, hopefully we'll be able to try and find somebody with more knowledge than I to bring on to have a chat with us about how we defend quietly in the background about against this stuff. You know, we've got good people. We've got good people going through the Epstein files. We've got good people like Mark Elias taking them to court when every time they do a new outrageous activity. We've got good people like Don Lemon and Joy Reid and Jim Acosta and BTC and David Packman and Glenn keeping us on top of all the day-to-day stuff. We need to make sure that they're not getting underneath our radars and doing the really sick shit. Not that, you know, the superficial stuff isn't pretty sick, but we've got to be on our guard, everybody. So, anybody know what Project 2025 is? Any of you heard of it? I'm guessing you might have. Let's define our terms because precision matters and they rely on you being vague. Project 2025, formerly called the 2025 Presidential Transition Project, it's all in the name, is a political initiative published in April 2023 by the Heritage Foundation. Its central document is called Mandate for Leadership, the Conservative Promise. And depending on which edition you're holding, it runs to around 900 pages. Some say 920, some say 927, call it 900 and change. It is in plain English, a detailed instruction manual for how to dismantle the United States federal government as it currently exists and rebuild it in the image of the radical right. And we need to make sure that they're not doing any of that stuff underneath all the dead cats that we're drowning in, right? Now, I want you to hear me clearly on this next part because this is where most coverage stops and where the real story actually begins, in my opinion. Project 2025 is not just a document. If it were just a document, it would be a pamphlet, a manifesto, a wish list you could roll up and swat a fly with. It's not that. It has 4 components, and it's the 4 components together that should frighten you. First, the mandate for leadership document itself, agency by agency, department by department, telling an incoming Conservative president exactly what to do and how to do it. 30 chapters, more than 350 contributors, more than 100 partner organizations. That's the what. Second, a personnel database, because every good organization's got one. A pre-screened, ideologically vetted list of candidates ready to be slotted into government positions from day one, because they learned a lesson from the first go around. And we'll come back to that lesson because it's key to everything. That is the who. Third, a training program. They called it the Presidential Administration Academy because, of course, they did. An online education, no worries, Chris, an online education system so that those vetted candidates would know how to operate the levers of power the moment they sat down at the desk. That is the how. And fourth, the part they were quietest about. So we're going to shout really loudly about it. A playbook, a detailed agency by agency implementation plan for the first 180 days. What to sign, when to sign it, and in what order. This is the when. So when somebody tells you Project 2025 is just a think tank document, you tell them this. They didn't just write down what they wanted. They recruited people to do it. They trained the people to do it, and they wrote the operational schedule for doing it. That's not ideology. That's logistics. That's a military operation wearing a cardigan, as some might say. This is not new either. That's the scary thing. This is 40 years in the making. Did you know that? I think this might be the single most important thing to understand about tonight, and it's the thing that turns this from a news story into a history lesson. The Heritage Foundation has been doing this for over 40 years, exactly, Betsy, since at least Reagan. This is not their first mandate for leadership. It is their 9th. The Mandate for Leadership series has been published in parallel with United States presidential elections since 1981. Hello, Chris, come on in. The very first one was handled to, Betsy's already told us, Ronald Reagan. And here's the receipt that should make the hair on your arms stand up. The Reagan administration implemented nearly half of the ideas in that first edition by the end of his first year in office. Nearly half in 1 year. And it didn't stop with Reagan. The Trump 1.0 administration, the one we all lived through, embraced almost 64% of the 2016 edition's recommendations after just 1 year. 64%. They were on it. So when people ask, as they do, how did nobody stop this? How did nobody see it coming? Part of the honest answer is this: nobody stopped it the last 2 times either. This is a machine that has been running quietly and efficiently since before some of you listening were even born. It does not panic. It does not rush. It publishes its plans, it waits for the right president, and then it executes. And I stress that word deliberately. The 2023 edition, the one we're dissecting, was actually the earliest ever published. It came out months before the candidates had even squared off in the first primary debate. They were not waiting to see who won this time. They built the infrastructure first and went looking for the driver second. Because at Heritage, there's a saying, and you need to learn it, because it's the skeleton key to the entire series. Personnel is policy. I'll say that one more time. Personnel is policy. We'll be repeating that a lot. So let me tell you more about the Heritage Foundation for those of us who weren't familiar with them. Who are they? Who is the Heritage Foundation? This organization that has been quietly drafting the blueprints for the American right for half a century. Let's go back to the beginning because it's always a good place to start. Probably why it's called the beginning. It tells you everything. The Heritage Foundation was founded in 1973. That's before even I was born, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody else. The idea was hatched a couple of years earlier in 1971 in the basement cafeteria of the United States Capitol by 2 Republican congressional aides named Ed Fulner and Paul Weyrich, or Weyrich, not sure which. Now remember those names, Fulner and Weyrich. We'll say Weyrich because we'll do it phonetically. It looks like Weyrich unless you're German, in which case it's Weyrich. But let's not go there. They matter. They're important. We'll come back to them. They had the idea, but ideas need money. And the money came from a beer magnate you may have heard of called Joseph Coors. Yes, that Coors. The lager. I'm never drinking it again. Well, I'm a recovered alcoholic, so I wouldn't be anyway. But, were I not, I wouldn't. So there. Joseph. Told you. Coors wrote a check for $250,000 in seed money, which in today's money would be somewhere around 1.5 to 1.6 million with an M dollars. Fulner said later, and I quote, "There wouldn't be a Heritage Foundation without Joe Coors." Thanks, Joe. So next time you see a Coors Light, you'll know exactly what else that family helped to brew, if you excuse the pun. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because Paul Weyrich was not just a think tank man. Weyrich was an architect of the entire modern American right. With Coors backing in roughly the same period, he also helped create the American Legislative Exchange Council, which we have come across before, ALEC. The organization that writes cookie-cutter legislation for conservative state lawmakers to copy and paste and push through. The same man, the same money. And Weyrich is the man who gave us one of the most honest quotes in American political history. When speaking to a room of religious conservatives, because of course they were, he said this, quote, "I don't want everybody to vote. Elections are not won by a majority of people. As a matter of fact, our leverage in the elections, quite candidly, goes up as the voting populace goes down." Anyone shouting voter suppression in the chat? Anybody seeing any hints, sniffs? Stopping voting by post. No more mail-in ballots. Must all vote on the day. No early voting. Voter ID. Gerrymandering the districts. And he was one of the architects of all this. Yes, absolutely. 9 p.m. for Glenn. Will be finished. Don't you worry, my little treasure. Can I just check it? It's 20 to 8 right now, not 20 to 9. Yeah, good. Cool. Keep going. Sit with that for a second. The co-founder of the organization that wrote the blueprint for the current US government told you decades ago that he did not want everybody to vote. He told us who he was in 1980, and we are still acting surprised in 2026. And I mean we. I've learned so much by looking into this. So that's the founding. What about now? What's heritage today? Well, it describes itself sweetly as a conservative think tank. I hear think tank and I worry. Just me. Let me be more precise, because precision is our job. It is a well-funded, deeply networked political organization that opposes abortion and reproductive rights, opposes LGBTQ plus rights, opposes immigrants' rights, opposes racial equality. So basically, if you're not white, male, able-bodied, you're fucked. Its board of trustees has historically been stocked, and this is going to come as no surprise to anybody, with executives from banking, real estate, hedge funds, and major corporations. Well, color us all shocked, right? See you later, Ellen. And for Project 2025 specifically, it spent 22 million with an M dollars. 22 million just on staffing and personnel recommendations. That is far, far more than it would normally spend on this kind of work. And why? Here's the lesson I promised you. Because the explicit stated lesson that Trump and his allies took from the first term was that he had the wrong people around him. And we've all heard Miles Taylor from Defiance echo that exact sentiment. Not that he thinks, but that they thought. You get me, right? People who said no. People who slowed things down. People who, when handed an order they thought was illegal, hesitated. Heritage decided it would never happen again. $22 million buys you a lot of people who will never, ever say no. no. And we could sit here and list off a dozen of them without even taking breath. So we're back to following the money because we always come back to the money. Who paid for the blueprint? Well, you cannot understand Project 2025 if you think it was written by a few zealots in an office. I did. I don't anymore. It was bankrolled lavishly, quietly, and in a way specifically designed so that you would never be able to see who was paying. Project 2025 is not one organization. It's a coalition of more than 100 right-wing groups, all feeding into the Heritage Foundation at the center. And that coalition is funded through what's called the dark money ecosystem. Let me translate that out of Washington speak. Dark money is money given to political causes in a way that hides the identity of the person giving it. It's legal. That's the worst part. It's completely legal. Epstein, Betsy mentions. Yeah, I didn't want to mention him, not when there is still millions of files that need to be produced, but yeah. Good example. Thank you. Thank you for playing my game, Betsy. So here's the headline receipt, and it's a stunner. You're going to love this, guys. And by love it, I mean get very, very cross and start shouting rude things at me. But, just put them in the put them in the chat. We're all here. We're all grown-ups. An investigation by the climate journalism outlet Dissecting found that the well-known financial firms Fidelity, Schwab, and Vanguard, the same household names where ordinary people park their pensions, helped funnel an estimated $171 million with an M dollars of dark money into Project 2025 groups. DSMOG, exactly. Capital D, lowercase e, capital S, MOG. De smog. Like De Beers, I guess. We all together there? Shall I put it in there? D smog. Oh no, I have to click in the box before I write it because I'm silly. D smog. Like that. Exactly. Well, almost with the capital S. So 171 million through donor advised funds, which are essentially charitable accounts that let the giver stay anonymous, because we're all about transparency in Trump 2.0, all about transparency. We're the most transparent government you're ever going to have. We tell you everything except who molested and abused and trafficked girls in the Epstein files. Everything else we will absolutely tell you, apart from all the things we don't want to tell you, and which we will lie about, so that's fine. We'll tell you something. Good enough, right? Then there's the Donors Trust. Mother Jones magazine has called the Donors Trust, let's put that in, Donors Trust, quote, the dark money ATM of the right. And the name fits. Donors Trust alone dispersed around 66 million with an M dollars to 53 different Project 2025 groups. And Donors Trust is booming, because of course it is. It disclosed nearly 1.4 billion with a B dollars in net assets at the end of 2024. 1 year, it received a single anonymous donation of 427 million with an M dollars. One gift from one person or one entity whose name you will never, ever know unless you check out Zev Shalev's The Greatest Heist. How was that for seamless, Betsy? Zev Shalev, whether you're on the same page as he is politically, is really one of the front runners for doing a deep dive on the money. If you want to really follow the money, follow Zev Shalev. That's enough of a pitch from me. And the old names are still there too. The Bradley Foundation and its associated fund poured over $50 million with an M into 29 different Project 2025 advisors since 2020. The network of foundations linked to Charles Koch and his late brother David, the oil billionaires, has been feeding this apparatus for decades. De Smog mapped at least 6 billionaire family fortunes bankrolling the project. 6 families to rewrite the government of 330 million people. 6 families are trying to fuck with your democracy. Don't let them. I'm not gonna shut up. I'm gonna keep opening the Pandora's box. I'm gonna keep shining the light in there. I'm gonna keep holding up the mirror, even if it's just to half a dozen other people. You know, that's half a dozen of us who knew more than we did yesterday. And I think that's a good thing. If that's all we do, and that can be a lonely place. I know it can be a lonely place, seeing. When I was a COVID vaccinator in the first, well, before I was a student nurse, and COVID hit, and I was like, they're telling lies. Why aren't we closing the airport? Why aren't we closing the schools? Hard, fast, short. Instead, we waited, we took forever, we let it rip, we killed loads of people in care homes, we let the bodies pile high. That's a direct quote from our Prime Minister at the time, Boris Johnson. Apparently, allegedly, been denied, but it's also been substantiated, so who knows? And I just thought, you absolute fuckers. You absolute fuckers. I'm not standing for this. I can see it. Why can nobody else see it? So I want this to be a space where all of us who can see it, and we don't need tinfoil hats for this meeting. It's a cafe. We bring our beverages. We get comfortable. We chill out. We bring the receipts. You use your big, fat, beautiful brains to figure out what to think. I don't tell you. I'll tell you what I think. Absolutely. I'm never going to be backwards at coming forward. Stick me on a list, Trump. I will really think I've made it. Anyway, where were we? Yes, we were looking at 6 families trying to control your democracy. Yes, Betsy, but the screw worms, the screw worms that have a 10 to 40 day incubation period. Biden. Yeah, Biden. I'd already looked up the incubation period for screw worms, because that's what I do when I'm not writing scripts for this, and thought, that that math's a little bit awkward. That's not quite working, is it? Because like a couple of months, you've been in power for what, 20, 22? I don't know, more than a couple of months. I'm struggling to find out how you link this back to Biden. And then I saw that wonderful, wonderful woman who's the agriculture secretary. Is it Brooke Rollins? Something like that. I don't actually care if I've got her name right, because she's done nothing to earn my respect. So it's something like Brooke Rollins, probably. Who cares? Some idiot woman basically saying, here, you're going to love this. Oh, you're going to love this. So, because of the Biden administration's porous borders with Mexico, the screwworm made its way up and across. But it was making its way up during the Biden administration because it knew how porous the borders were. It what? What? It wasn't prevalent in Mexico. It was prevalent in South America. It's crawled its little way up to Mexico, waiting, thinking, "Oh, we can get across now, boys." I I d I sometimes I run out of crayons trying to explain this administration. So let's go back to Project 2025. Okay, let's have a look at the actual document, because otherwise we're going to run out of time tonight. Don't know what page I'm on, but I've got a feeling I've got an awful lot left. So Project 2025 states 4 aims openly in its foreword, and I want to do these carefully because this is where they are the cleverest, and I mean that with all lack of sincerity. The trick of Project 2025 is that the headlines sound reasonable, and this is probably the bit that shocked me the most, because I was just like, fuck. You can almost see how people would think, that sounds quite a good idea, actually. Trust me, I know you're not going to believe it. Trust me. Wait till you hear this stuff. Excuse me, I need some nicotine. It's better than a cigarette. Don't judge me. So, goal 1. Are you ready? Here's the headline. Restore the family as the centerpiece of American life. Now, which of you evil bastards out there is against family? Stand up. Put your hand up. Show me in the chat. I love my family. Don't you love yours? It sounds lovely, right? But, when Project 2025 says family, it means a very specific kind of family defined by a very specific theology with very specific ideas about who is allowed to be in one and who is not. My family, me, my 25-year-old son and my 12-year-old son. That's not right. Maybe he's 24. Yeah, he's nearly 25. 24 and 12. Not acceptable. We don't do single parent families and we're not church going. So, oh my God, hang us up by the nearest lamppost. Sorry, that has different connotations in the US. I apologize. That wasn't meant to be a racist trope. But yeah, Oh, my sister, she was married to a black man. She's got a beautiful, beautiful mixed race daughter. Beautiful. Who's now with a white man. And 2 beautiful, beautiful, beautiful mixed race children. Well, none of us would figure. Exactly. White family means white heterosexual family. Dad, mum, 2.4 kids. Mum stays in the kitchen popping out babies. Dad goes and shags the nanny. I don't know, but no disrespect to any dads out there who are in a traditional family and doing their bloody best just to make it through. So it has very fixed roles for mummy and daddy. It does not mean 2 mums. It does not mean 2 dads. It does not mean single parent doing the work of 2 their whole damn life and being fucking exhausted because they were 4 hours in a car to take their kid to school this morning because some idiot lorry driver spilled his load on the other side of the Dartford Bridge. Sorry, I digress a little bit. But it was really annoying. By the time I got home, I'd been in the car for 4 hours. And when you've got fibromyalgia, sitting in one spot for 4 hours, it's not funny. But I don't like to whine. It's not all about me. No, it's not. It's not. It's about Project 2025. The document explicitly opposes what it calls initiatives that subsidize single parenthood. Thanks again. Not that it affects me because, I'm not in America. See you later, Miss Hughes. Lovely to have you here. So when they say restore the family, hear this instead. Restore one particular family and withdraw support from all others. Sky Blue Eyes points out there's no such thing as traditional. Amen to that. In the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, I heard many a time, normal is a setting on the washing machine. I don't actually have a normal setting on my washing machine, but I get their point. Anyway, goal 2. Are you ready for this one? So we're all hateful if we're not having the mum, dad, 2 kids, mum popping out babies in the kitchen, dad going off to work and ripping off some poor old people's pension fund. I don't know. I'm sure they're doing lots of other nice things. And then there are a lot of good dads who are in that type of family who are doing their best. And I'm not talking about you, okay? You're fine. You're covered. You're protected. The Heritage Project has got your back. The rest of us, we're a little bit fucked. Goal 2. Dismantle the administrative state. I did know that, Martin. By 2045, the white population will fall under 50%. We will be the minority. Yeah, I'm all for that. Why? Why does it matter? Why does it actually fucking matter? If I go to the hospital for a blood transfusion, I have never, ever, even in the most racist areas of London, heard anybody saying, no, I only want the white blood, please. I don't want any of that lesbian blood. Oh, no, don't give me the disabled blood. I'm dying. Please pump as much of that lovely blood in me as you possibly can, because I don't want to die, please. It's, not exactly word for word. I'm paraphrasing. So, dismantle the administrative state. The one they say almost proudly, and it sounds like dry, bureaucratic housekeeping. That's all it is. Cutting red tape. Who likes red tape? None of us. But the administrative state is just a cold phrase for the people who actually run the country day to day. You'll have heard Glenn talk about them. You'll have heard Miles talk about them. These are the civil servants, the career civil servants who don't care what colour tie the guy behind the Resolute desk is wearing. They just want to do their job to help make people's lives better. Hey, Jan, I didn't see you sneak in, you cheeky sausage. It's the scientists at the agency that approves your medicine. It's the inspectors that check the quality of your food, the civil servants who process your benefits, your passport. Dismantling the administrative state means firing tens of thousands of those qualified, experienced, non-partisan people and replacing them with loyalists whose primary qualification is, yes, they won't say no. We will spend all of part 2 on this because it's the heart of the whole thing. Thank you, Amy. Goal 3. Defend the nation's sovereignty, borders, and bounty against global threats. Well, come on, don't you love your country? Of course you do. Borders, sovereignty, sounds like standard issue, right? But in practice, we all know this is the chapter that gives you mass deportation, detention camps, ICE. The plan is to abolish the Department of Homeland Security and build a single enormous immigration enforcement agency, and we can see it happening. The proposal, and I'm not making this up, is to treat desperate asylum seekers as, quote, an opportunity for a significant influx of money. Always about the money. By charging them ever higher fees. Sovereignty, when they say it, means something is going to happen to somebody and it will not be gentle. And 4, secure God-given individual rights to live freely. The loveliest sounding of them all, right? Freedom. We all want our freedom, God-given rights. But read it again with your receipts hat on. It means the rights that they agree with for the people that they approve of. It's freedom for some, defined by the few, and withheld from the rest. The whole document is soaked in a particularly disgusting brand of Christian nationalism, the belief that the United States is and should be a Christian nation governed by Christian law. The Heritage president, we met him at the beginning, Kevin Roberts, even reinterprets the phrase pursuit of happiness in the Declaration of Independence as, his word, pursuit of blessedness. Not what it says, Kev. That's not a small edit. That's rewriting the founding promise of the country from happiness, which is yours to define, whatever makes you happy, to blessedness, which they get to define for you. And exactly as Tamara says in the chat, all men are created equal, just some are more equal than others. She puts it slightly differently and probably more accurately. 4 goals: family, state, borders, freedom. Every one of them is a Trojan horse. The language is designed to sound like common sense at the school gates. The content is anything but. And then let me bring you to the part that we're all seeing play out in real time. The engine underneath. The unitary executive. Now, I promised you we'd deal in the real machinery tonight, not just the personalities. So I need to teach you one idea, just one. It has a boring, lawyerly name, and they're absolutely counting on that name being boring enough for you to switch off. Do not switch off. This is the single most important idea in the entire 900 pages because it's the engine sitting underneath all 4 of those goals. It's called the unitary executive theory. Stay with me because I'm going to make it simple the way we always do so that I can understand it. The American Constitution in Article 2 has a short sentence. It says, the executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America. That's it. For most of American history, that was understood to mean the president runs the executive branch, but within limits set by Congress and the courts, checks and balances. The thing you learned about in school. The president is powerful, but not a king, because the founders had just fought a war to get rid of a king and weren't very keen on the idea of bringing in a new one. The unitary executive theory says something much bigger. It says that one short sentence means the president personally controls the entire executive branch, all 4 million people in it, and that nobody, not Congress, not the courts, can put any meaningful limit on that control. Every agency, every department, every official, all of it under the direct command of one person. The Brennan Center calls Project 2025's version of this a maximalist version. I'd call it something similar. I'd call it a throne. And we've seen this. Anyone who listened to the Friday oral arguments in the courts about the ballroom heard exactly this. If we're quick enough that you can't stop us, once we've done it, there ain't nothing you can do. Now, there's always been a milder version of this idea on the American right. It was promoted under Reagan, championed by Dick Cheney, mostly as a way to cut regulations. But what Project 2025 does is take that mild idea and crank it all the way up to maximum. And the man cranking it is our old friend. We've met him already, Russ Vought, who, as you'll remember in a moment, wrote the chapter on presidential power and now runs the budget office. This is his theology. He believes it down to his tippy toes. And Trump put it more plainly than any law professor ever could. Back in 2019, in his first term, he stood in front of a crowd and said, and I quote, "I have an Article 2 where I have the right to do whatever I want as president. Whatever I want." There's your unitary executive theory in 7 words from the man himself. He told us who he was in 2019. So what does this look like when you switch it on? It looks like firing people you're not allowed to fire. There's a 90-year-old Supreme Court decision from 1935 called Humphrey's Executor. I know, the dullest name for the most important case you'll never have heard of. Stay with me. What it established was simple and vital. The president cannot fire the heads of independent agencies just because he feels like it. The people who run bodies like the Federal Trade Commission, the National Labour Relations Board, the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, they have fixed terms and they can only be removed for a real cause, like genuine misconduct, not a manufactured one. Why does that matter? Because it means the people who police the banks, protect the workers, set the interest rates, and referee the economy do not have to be loyal to any president to keep their jobs. They can tell him no. That single 1935 decision is the backbone of the entire independent structure of the American government. And the Trump administration has spent its second term taking a wrecking ball to it. We have all seen it. They fired Gwynne Wilcox from the National Labour Relations Board, the first black woman ever to serve on it. No cause given. They fired Kathy Harris from the Merit Systems Protection Board. They fired Rebecca Slaughter from the Federal Trade Commission. They moved against Lisa Cook at the Federal Reserve itself, and we've all seen what they've done to Jerome Powell. In February 2025, Trump signed an executive order with the chillingly bland title, Ensuring Accountability for All Agencies, asserting his personal control over all of them. Every single firing said the same thing. The 1935 rule does not apply to me. I am the executive power, all of it. And here is where it stops being a history lesson and becomes tonight's headline. The case challenging those firings, Trump versus Slaughter, was argued before the Supreme Court in December 2025. And by all accounts, the court's conservative majority is ready to overturn that 90-year-old protection. Justice Elena Kagan said her colleagues seemed, her word, raring to do it. The decision is expected by the end of the court's term, which is just this month. So as you sit here listening to me tonight, that ruling could be landing any day now. It might even have landed by the time you hear this. Go check. Check Michael Popak from Legal AF, part of the Midas Touch Network. Check Aaron Parnas. Check Adam Klasfeld. There's too many Adams. I think it's Adam Klasfeld. Check any of those guys. They will be on top of it. Sign up to them if you want to know, first. And if it falls the way everyone expects, here's what it means in plain English. The Federal Reserve, the Federal Trade Commission, the Labour Board, every so-called independent agency would answer directly to the president. There would be no such thing as independent anymore. One person at the top controlling all of it. Joyce Vance, great shout, Summer. There are a lot of people keeping an eye on this stuff, and so just go follow them and you will get the news as it breaks. That is not a side effect of Project 2025. That is the entire point of Project 2025. Thank you, Amy. Exactly. All Rise News, Adam Klasfeld. Katie Fang, of course, the amazing Katie Fang. And for all your Epstein news as well, Katie Fang. Everything else, the firing, Schedule F, the loyalists who are about to meet, it all hangs off this one idea. Get the throne and the rest is just decoration. They wrote it down. They told us the executive power shall be vested in a president. They just forgot to say out loud that they plan to read it as, and everything else shall be vested in him too. And then we come to the I know nothing of it all. My favourite part, the denial. Because during the 2024 campaign, when Democrats started waving this 900-page document around and reading out the scary bits, Donald Trump did what Donald Trump always does. He looked down the barrel of the camera, and what did he do, everybody? Type it in the chat. We all know, so we can carry on. Let's do the timeline, because the timeline is the receipt. In the summer of 2024, as the document was becoming a political liability, Trump posted that he knew, quote, "Thank you, Jan. First in, he lied. He's lied his little testicles off." So he said, quote, he knew nothing about Project 2025. He said he had no idea who was behind it. He called some of it ridiculous and abysmal. On the 5th of July, 2024, Project 2025 itself put out a statement saying it didn't speak on behalf of any candidate. The fix was in. Everybody agreed to pretend they were strangers. And they all thought we were stupid enough to buy it. But here's the thing about pretending to be strangers. It only works if nobody checks the guest list. So let's check the guest list. You knew we were going there. CNN went through the contributors and found at least 140 people who worked on Project 2025 who had previously worked in Trump 1.0. 140. The project's partner organizations employed over 200 former Trump officials. At least 6 of the people who would become his cabinet secretaries were authors or direct contributors to the mandate. About 20 pages of the document are credited to the man who was his first deputy chief of staff. These are not strangers. This is a fucking family reunion. And then the election was won, and a funny thing happened. The mask came off. Paul Dans, the man who directed Project 2025, who'd spent the campaign at a polite distance, was asked afterwards how the new administration's policies compared to his blueprint. And he said they were, and I want you to hear this quote. Ready? Quote, "Beyond my wildest dreams." Beyond his wildest dreams. And Trump himself, the man who knew nothing, he now refers in public to his own budget chief, Ross Vogt, as, quote, "of Project 2025 fame." The watchdog group, Pogo, Pogo, caught that one. He's gone from, quote, "I've never heard of it," to introducing his staff by their Project 2025 credentials. He told us who he was. We just weren't listening. Or worse, we were listening, riding high on a wave of hope, and we decided not to believe the evidence of our own eyes and ears. It was the party's most something or other command. So, the architects. Let's whiz through the key runners and riders before we wind up for today. Personnel is policy. We've mentioned that before, and that is key. If the people are the policy, then to understand what's coming, you need to meet the people. So let's do the introductions to a few of the top runners and riders. For each one, I'll tell you what they wrote, where they sit now, and what they've done with the keys since they got them. This is the Rogues Gallery, everybody. Pour yourself another beverage. I will take a swig and we will crack on. Thank you for joining us, Pam. Lovely to have you here. Martin, oh my goodness, yes. I couldn't believe my little eyes when we fought and we didn't win. And he was back in the White House. I literally had to switch off from politics for 6 months because I couldn't believe it. Yes, I could drink cola. Nothing crazy. So let's kick off with Russell Vought, because quite frankly, I'd like to get him out the fucking way and never mention his name again. If this whole thing has a brain, And let's be honest, the jury's out on whether there are any brains in the Trump administration. It's this man. Vought is the chief architect. During the Biden years, he was the driving force behind Project 2025. He personally wrote the chapter on the executive office of the president. And that chapter is about one thing and one thing only: expanding and consolidating the power of the president until almost nothing can check it. We are seeing it happen in real time, folks. On Tucker Carlson's show, he said the quiet part at full volume. He said the president needed to move, and I quote, as fast and as aggressively as possible with a radical constitutional perspective to dismantle the bureaucracy. He believes the president can refuse to spend money that Congress has ordered be spent. He believes the president can use the military during civil unrest. He believes the Department of Justice should answer directly to the president, and that its independence is just a habit left over from Watergate that can be chucked away. He was also the architect of Schedule F, which is the single most dangerous mechanism in this entire story and which gets its own episode next week. Where is he now? Well, we all know he runs the Office of Management and Budget. He has described it himself as the nerve center through which a president controls the entire federal government. The man who designed the weapon is now the man holding it, and his finger is on every fucking trigger in Washington. And yes, Illy B, he needs to be taken down in handcuffs to a nice dark cell somewhere, not in any kind of a violent way, obviously. You know, we believe in law and order here, even if certain governments don't. Stephen Miller, everyone's favourite Nosferatu. If Vought is the brain, Miller is the cold, beating heart. And I believe that is the last time you will ever hear Stephen Miller and heart in the same sentence, unless it's Stephen Miller was caught ripping out someone's heart. Literally. He was the architect of the cruelest immigration policies of the first Trump term, the family separations, and he's a major figure in the Project 2025 network. I know, you can hardly believe it. Evil cretin Stephen Miller, the architect behind cruel immigration policies, I can't believe it, said literally nobody ever. His organization, which we've touched upon before, America First Legal, served as one of the project's advisory organizations because, of course, it did. A bridge carrying the blueprint straight from the Heritage Foundation into Trump's inner circle. Where is he now? Well, unfortunately, he's all too often in our fucking faces. He's Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, sitting in the West Wing. That is, until the president decides to knock that down. The mass deportations you watched on your screens, the detention facilities, the legal residents pulled from their homes and their workplaces, the fear in immigrant communities you can feel through the television, that is Stephen Miller's baby, being implemented by Stephen Miller from inside the White House. He didn't change. He just got promoted. Then we have Peter Navarro. He wrote the trade chapter in Project 2025, arguing for, wait for it, aggressive tariffs and economic nationalism for treating trade as a weapon. And how have those tariffs worked out for you all? Yeah, all richer? All got 27 jobs to choose from? No? Weird. Oh well, let's carry on. Navarro is a true believer, so committed to the first Trump term that he served time in prison for contempt of Congress rather than cooperate with the January the 6th investigation. He walked out of prison and straight back into the White House. Yes, I did look into Peter Thiel, and he is very, very peripheral to the whole thing. He's really not an architect or a funding source of Project 2025, because I thought his departure to Argentina and booking the kids into school and all the rest of it was very interesting. And like the lovely Jen from the I've Had It podcast points out, all the Nazis flee to Argentina. Just quoting her, just quoting her. So Peter Thiel will have to do something separately about, because we'll do a Tech Bros episode, and that's where he sits. He's important, he's involved, but not directly with Project 2025. Okay. So he's walked out of prison, straight back into the White House, and where is he now? Senior Counsel for Trade and Manufacturing. The man who wrote the trade policy is the man running the trade policy. It's not a coincidence, folks. The tariffs roiling the global economy, the broken relationships with all your allies, the price rises landing in ordinary shopping baskets. That's his chapter coming to life. Hurrah! Said nobody ever. Then we have some more familiar names. We have Brendan bloody hell Carr, single-handedly telling us all what we can find funny and what we can't. Carr wrote the chapter on the Federal Communications Commission, you will be very unsurprised to hear, which is the body that regulates American television, radio, and telecoms. He argued for reining in media companies he accused of censoring conservatives. Where is he now? Well, we all know where he is now, because his little tentacles have been poking out every time we want to laugh at somebody on the telly. He chairs the Federal Communications Commission. He got the exact agency he wrote about. And under his leadership, that agency has opened investigations into major broadcasters. It moves that press freedom groups warn are about punishing unfriendly coverage. The man who drew up the plan to bring the media to heel is now holding the leash. Then we have Mr. Mumbles himself, Tom Homan. Can't understand a single word he says, but I don't imagine any of it's good. A contributor to the project's immigration architecture. Well, colour me shocked. Drawing on his time as acting head of immigration and customs enforcement in the first term. Where is he now? Well, he's sort of Trump's border czar, ICE important person, wanders in whenever the rest of ICE, CBP, and DHS, Department of Homeland Security, fuck it up. Sweeping authority over immigration enforcement across the entire country, north and south, land, sea, and air. The plans he helped shape, he now commands. John Ratcliffe. I didn't know him quite as well, but I feel like I do now, and I wish I didn't. He's a clever one. So follow me closely. Ratcliffe himself is credited as a contributor, but the project's intelligence chapter, the spies bit, was actually written by a man named Dustin Carmack, who happened to be Ratcliffe's chief of staff when Ratcliffe was Director of National Intelligence in the first term. So the chapter on reshaping American intelligence was written by Ratcliffe's right-hand man. And where is Ratcliffe now? He's the director of the CIA. The blueprint for the spies was drafted in his office by his deputy, and now he runs those spies. That's not a coincidence. On this show, we do not believe in that many coincidences. And finally, everyone's favorite propaganda Barbie, Caroline Levitt. And I've saved her for last because we know her so well by now. And it really is the purest. You'll remember her most recently as the woman who's just gone off to have maternity leave and have her second, 10th, 400th baby. I don't know. I don't care. But originally, she was the young, sharp campaign spokeswoman who stood on podiums throughout 2024 and told journalists, told voters, told anyone who'd listen that Donald Trump had nothing to do with Project 2025 and knew nothing about it. She was the campaign's national press secretary, and here's the receipt. At the very same time she was out there denying it, what was little Caroline doing? She was a Project 2025 instructor. She was teaching its curriculum. She was training the loyalists at the Presidential Administration Academy. The person sent out to tell you it wasn't real in her other job was teaching the class. Where is she now? She's still the White House press secretary. She's just off having a baby. I'm sure she'll be back at the podium, still telling us what is and isn't real. She told us who she was. We just didn't check her other diary. So, from plan to reality, the scorecard so far. Just gonna kind of sum up a little bit. So that's the who and the what and the money. Now let's talk about the only question that really matters. Is it working? Are they actually doing it? Or is this just a scary document on a shelf that we're all getting worked up about for nothing? I'm afraid the answer is yes. It's working, and it's working fast. The hard number first. As of February 2026, the Center for Progressive Reform, working with Governing for Impact, found the Trump administration had initiated or completed 53% of Project 2025's domestic policy agenda. That's 283 of the 532 recommendation actions they track in just 12 months. More than half the plan in the first year. And I have to be honest with you, that number is already out of date as I say it, because they can't update the trackers fast enough to keep up with the pace. I tried to get more recent figures. I just couldn't get them. They don't have them yet. Think about that. The watchdogs, whose entire job is to track this, cannot count quickly enough. That, all by itself, is a receipt. But percentages are abstract, and I don't deal in abstract. So let me tell you what 53% actually looks like in the real world, in real lives. They reinstated Schedule F on the first day, day one. The mechanism, Vought designed, the one we cover next week, reclassifying tens of thousands of civil servants so that they can just be fired at will. They had it ready, and they pulled the trigger on the first day. Since then, by various counts, somewhere around 300 to 320,000 federal employees have left their jobs through firings, forced reclassifications, or being pushed to resign. 300,000. Nurses caring for veterans, inspectors, scientists, air traffic safety staff, the people who keep the lights on. Thank you, Laura. What a lovely thing to say. She loves me, and I love you all too. We've seen it. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, while we're sitting all lovely and comfy and, oh, well, at least that wasn't me, the majority, the biggest group affected by far is Black and brown women. They stood up for us when we wanted the vote. Now we need to stand up for them because they are being really fucking shat all over, and it's not okay. They effectively eliminated USAID, as we all know, the agency that delivered American foreign aid, food, and medicine to the poorest people on Earth. The blueprint wanted to rein it in. They went further. They gutted it. Programs that fed starving children and treated disease switched off. Programs that could maybe be watching out for when there's an Ebola outbreak and tell people and do something about it and monitor it and stop it going all around the world before we've even had our first cup of coffee. They began dismantling the Department of Education, which is shocking, with Linda McMahon, you know, her of WWE, WWF, WWC, I don't fucking know, the wrestling lady. An explicit Project 2025 goal threatening the funding that supports low-income schools and children with disabilities. That went first. Cut off the kids who really need it the most. They moved to strip collective bargaining rights, the basic right to be part of a union, from federal workers across some 18 departments, affecting close to 1 million people. They moved to defund public media, NPR and PBS, exactly as the document instructed. They rolled back protections for transgender people. They rescinded guidance that hospitals must provide emergency abortion care to women whose lives are at risk, and women have died. And transgender people have taken their own lives. I heard it said very, very recently that the majority of transgender people's first bullies are their parents. Let's not join them, the bullies. Let's ally all together, all of us little groups, the women, the black and brown people, the LGBTQ plus people, the transgender people, the young, the old, the disabled. If we all join together, we are bigger than they are. We do it. We're going to do it, guys. They've moved to do all these things because each one was a line in the document. Each one is now a line in somebody's life. Thank you, Chris. We do, Martin. And as a white woman, I need to do this. It's not enough. This is something I've learned, and Evie Bateman and Natasha Kay really helped me learn this. It is not enough to be not racist. I need to be anti-racist. I need to be fighting for the black and brown women who fought for my rights before I was even born. I need to stand up and shout where they're just going to get smacked down. Yes, I might get smacked down too. But if we're all standing up and shouting together with our elbows out, our arms locked, what the fuck can they do? We are too strong. We just need to remember it, and we just need to remember who to fight, and it is not each other. Okay? Okay. So this is the part where I need you to feel it. Can you tell I feel it? Deborah, the spare room's yours. I'll stick the kettle on. Bring the kids. We'll sort something out. Oh, my Lord above. It's very easy, I know, sitting in London or Toronto or wherever you might be tonight, to treat this as an American horror story playing on a screen far, far away. It is not far away. The dismantling of the world's largest aid agency kills people in countries that have never even heard of the Heritage Foundation. The capture of American media changes what the whole world reads. We'll come to exactly why this lands on our doorstep in the UK in a few minutes. But first, if your stomach, like poor Laura Not Loomer's, is somewhere down around your tippy toes right now, I want to do something important. You are not imagining it. There are people ringing the bell. We are just ringing it along with them. Oh, come on then, Deborah. Yeah, come on. I'll move some of the crap out of the way. I need to tidy up anyway. It's fine. You come on. I want to take a breath here because if you're feeling a little bit sick listening to all this, I want you to know two things. One, that feeling is appropriate. And two, you're not imagining it, and you're not alone in seeing it. Because one of the cruelest tricks of a moment like this is that it's designed to make you feel like you're going mad, to make you feel like you're the only one watching the water rise while everyone else talks about something else. Ballrooms, fucking cage fighting on the White House lawn, the latest scandal, the latest outrage, the shiny distraction of the day. And meanwhile, the architects just stay the course and advance the agenda while everybody's looking over there. That's not an accident, that's the strategy. Flood the zone, exhaust the public, and do the real work in the noise. So I want to point you towards some people, not to replace your own eyes, never that, but because on this show we believe in showing our working and pointing you to others who show theirs. These are people who've been ringing this bell loudly, clearly, with receipts, while a lot of the mainstream press were still calling it politics as usual. And I have mentioned as many as I can think of as we go along. But here are a few that I just want to draw your attention to, if you would indulge me. And these are just a few of the bigger ones. There are so many content creators. Look at who the people who are following the same people as you are following. Do you get me? So if Sky Blue Eyes is following me and you're following me, and Sky Blue Eyes is also following Bob over there, then have a look at Bob over there. Do you get me? We can share our knowledge. We can pool our resources. Yeah? Sorry to pick on you there, Sky Blue Eyes. You just happen to be. Oh, don't even get me started on Michael Wolff. I'm sorry. I love the Daily Beast, but I cannot watch it if that man is on there. I apologize. I'm sure I know I don't know him, but he just gives me the willies. That's an English term for the creeps. Sorry. Okay. Martin's got some fantastic articles. If you really want to be looking at what's going on under the surface, it looks like this, but have a think about it, because it really might be this. That's the kind of perspective that I've learned a lot from Martin. So that's Martin D. Vasquez, all free, as he says, and really, really helpful. Yeah. Laura Not Luma forwarded one of your articles to me, Martin, and that was it. That was all I needed to read. And if you don't agree with what Martin's writing, do you know what? Stop reading. If you don't agree with what I'm saying, stop listening. It's totally fine. Come back, have a break, do what you want, okay? We're giving you the information. We're giving you the receipts as well, so that you can decide. We all have a bias. We all have a perspective. I've told you, I have one, and I will share it with you. But when I'm telling you stuff, I'm going to bring the receipts so that you can check my working and you can decide, is she like the crazy London liberal left-wing version of Fox News, or is she actually telling me some stuff that might be true? Oh, yeah, and follow Chris. Chris is another great content creator. I was on Chris's show with his lovely co-host, Mel, and they are just the most lovely, lovely people, and funny and informative and fighters. So please, if you haven't checked out Chris Resists, go and watch his show. It's lovely. Thursday morning, lunchtime, depending on where you are in the country. So yeah, that's another person who's not on my list. But to the list, quickly, because we're going to cut into Glenn very soon. Heather Cox Richardson, HCR. Now, she evokes opinions because there are some who believe she could be doing more. But if you just want to get good, solid facts, the real stuff based on historical perspective, go and have a look. She's a historian, and every single day in her Letters from an American, she connects what's happening now to the long arc of American history, calmly with footnotes. She's a steady hand on the tiller for millions of people right now, and there's a reason why her newsletter is one of the most read in the entire world. And absolutely, you have Evie on. Oh, Evie is incredible. Love Evie. And everyone in the chat, I'm going to say them out loud if I possibly can for anyone who's just listening or watching the video. So Katie Fang, we've mentioned. Jim Acosta, we've mentioned. Joy Reid, we've mentioned. Absolutely. We've got Robert Reich. Doesn't get mentioned, but he just does his thing quietly in the background. Former United States Labour Secretary, now one of the clearest explainers alive of how economic power and political power fuse together. When they gut the Labour board, Reich is the one who tells you exactly what that means for the worker. Okay, go look. We've got Katie Fang, Rachel Maddow, Norm Eisner, awesome. Who we got? Joanne Freeman, Dre's Dossier, Lawrence O'Donnell. All the MS Now crowd seem pretty good for mainstream. Thank you. Okay, and Glenn Kirshner. We wouldn't be here but for Glenn. I wouldn't be here but for Glenn. So a lot to thank that wonderful man for. We all know Glenn, former federal prosecutor who has been relentlessly day after day walking ordinary people through exactly what the capture of the Justice Department means in plain legal terms. When we get to part 3, the capture, we will be leaning on voices like his. And Glenn's not just given me a space to shout about the stuff that normally I just shout at the telly or the kids who are really not interested. It's given me a community. And like he says, it is golden. It's priceless. Our next AG, absolutely, Laura. The Brennan Centre for Justice. Less a person, more a powerhouse. Their Michael Waldman called Project 2025 a dangerous vision for the presidency back in 2024, before most outlets were taking it seriously, and they have tracked the unitary executive fight better than almost anyone. Thank you, Amy. Follow the money, follow Zev Shalev. Thank you, Betsy. And Democracy Docket, we've mentioned the wonderful Mark Elias, the outlet that's followed every single one of the court cases, the firings, the Humphreys executor fight, the voting cases, so that ordinary people can actually keep track of litigation that's deliberately designed to be too boring to follow. They'll all be in the receipts. The point I want you to take away is this. The bell has been rung loudly by serious people for years. Thank you, Martin. I've been working on this for a few weeks, and I hope it's a really good series, and I hope it's helpful, because I don't know if you've seen me before, but my ethos is I have a question. I have to go and answer the question. Once I find the answer, I come back and I share it with everyone in case you had the question as well. That's it. Okay, see you later, Deborah. Nearly done, guys. So, for years, the tragedy was that nobody warned us. The tragedy, though, now is how many of us riding high did not want to hear it. We'll come back to that, I promise. We will come back to that. So, I'm going to skip over the it's happening here too part and just summarize, because, you know, we're about to bump into Glenn. Before we close, let's just remind ourselves of where we've landed tonight. Let me say it plainly, one line at a time, so it sits in your chest properly. The man who wrote the blueprint for dismantling the civil service is now running the budget office. The man who wrote the immigration cruelty is now Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy. The man who wrote the trade chapter is now running the trade policy. The man who wrote the communications chapter is now running the communications regulation. The man whose deputy wrote the intelligence chapter is now director of the Central Intelligence Agency. The woman who told you Trump had nothing to do with any of it was teaching its curriculum while she said it, and now she runs the White House mouthpiece. The man who said this revolution would remain bloodless only if the left allowed it to be, he's still at his desk in the Heritage Foundation, and he calls it institutionalizing Trumpism. And the 6 billionaire families who paid for it all, you'll never see their faces. That was the deal. This was not a coincidence. This was not an accident. This was not politics as usual. This was a plan conceived in a Capitol basement in 1971, funded for 50 years, written down, published, distributed at a conference, taught in a classroom, and executed on schedule from day one. They told us who they were. Now, next Monday, we go into the engine room, part 2, burning the civil service, Schedule F in full, the single most boring sounding, most dangerous idea in the entire document, and the reason everything else became possible. It's not a comfortable episode, but after tonight, I think you already know we don't come here for comfort, we come here for receipts. I'll look into that tomorrow and see if we can find out any information on the 6 families. That would be interesting. I bet people like Katie Fang and Zev Shalev are looking. They might be the people to ask. So, you know the drill. If you enjoyed the show tonight, please recommend it to a friend. If you didn't, then recommend us to an enemy and we all win. Okay? So, thank you to everyone who helped me to make it possible. Thank you to my Thursday co-hosts, Summer and Laura. Thank you to Summer for the publicity. Thank you to Amy for being our unofficial admin, and to Chris for doing all the wonderful artwork that she does to keep us fighting for democracy in a kind of more cheerful and humorous way, because sometimes this shit can be heavy and it can be hurting the old brain. Anybody who's not up for prayer, reflection, a moment of calm, that's the end of the content. We wish you well. We send you on your way with love, and we say, love to see you back here next time. Thursday night, same time, same place, is the Mamas meeting where we look at the crazy shit that's been going on all week. And next Monday, it'll be part 2 in the Project 2025 series. Like, subscribe, share, do all the things. I would really, really appreciate you. If you want more bang for your buck and you want to be a paid subscriber, you get the full show notes each week, a companion guide when I'm doing more complex. So there'll be a companion guide with all the chronology for this one, and that will all be published straight after the show for the paid subscribers. But you don't have to. We'll never gatekeep content, just extra stuff, because you know you're paying a few quid, you want something for it. It seems reasonable, right? Oh, Susan, I am a wealth of questions. So many questions. That will be up for the paid subscribers tomorrow. It just goes straight up around about the same time this one. So it'll be up before I have my breakfast, because it's nearly 2 o'clock in the morning here on my Substack. So anyone who is staying, let's bring the tempo down a little bit. Take a deep breath. Sorry, Tamara, I haven't kept up with who's paid and who's not. If you're a paid subscriber, you will absolutely have access to it. If you're not, you should still be able to see it. You can just click on the preview to have a look, see if it's something you might be interested in. All right. For our reflection today, I was reminded of a very old parable often attributed to Aesop, and it was just screaming in my ear the whole time I was researching. The true origins of this parable are actually unclear, but if you're ready, it's very short, and I'll begin, and you will see instantly why this is the one that came to me tonight. A scorpion came to the bank of a river and asked a frog to carry him across. The frog hesitated. "How do I know you won't sting me?" The scorpion replied, "Think about it. If I sting you, you sink and I drown with you. Why would I do that?" The frog considered this, decided the logic was sound, and agreed. The scorpion climbed onto the frog's back and they set off across the river. Halfway across, the scorpion stung the frog. As the frog felt the paralysis taking hold and they both began to sink beneath the water, he turned to the scorpion with his last breath and asked, "Why? Now we'll both die. The scorpion shrugged and said, I couldn't help it. It's my nature. It's who I am. They told us who they were. They wrote it down. And they did it anyway, because it's their nature. God, please help us to listen when people tell us who they are, and to believe them, and to protect ourselves and each other accordingly. In Jesus' name, Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologise for bringing us right up to the wire. It was only supposed to be a 90-minute episode, but you know me. Oopsies. Go quickly, empty your bladders and whatever else you need to do, and I'll see you over at Glenn's. I have been Mama. I look forward to seeing you next time. But for tonight, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your awesome contributions. You have been an absolutely wonderful, wonderful audience, and I'm so grateful. I've really enjoyed it, even though it has been pretty freaking heavy. And I'll see you all at Glenn's, or I'll see you next time. Because for now, for tonight, the cafe is closed. Good night, everyone.